is going on, guys, and welcome back to another Pokemon Sun and Moon Wi-Fi battle. This is a match that I had against Jerk Bears, and this actually took place on my Twitch livestream last night. So, looking at the team I'm working with, I decided to throw together some OG homies that I haven't been able to use in a while because Pokebank wasn't out. But basically, I got my man Paul Slowbros out here, along with Dick Pinch the Pincer, ready to tear through some shit. And I also decided to bring specially defensive Cradilly because I was interested to see how that thing was going to work in this OU meta, along with Hydreigon and Darmanitan, who are honestly always just threats that I really enjoy using. I'm pretty comfortable with them. So, looking at my opponent's team, we got, I am really afraid of the Salazzle. That thing could be potentially problematic to me, along with, I actually have never seen a Pyukumuku in a Wi-Fi battle. I've played against them in Showdown. They do have the pretty interesting innards out ability, so I'm kind of excited to see what that thing's gonna do. He also has the Alolan Marowak and Decidueye and stuff, so honestly a pretty solid team there, and let's go ahead and see what happens here. So from looking at the team build, I was expecting the Miniar to be his lead choice, just basically because you do often see those things as dedicated leads with Stealth Rock and stuff. So he does actually end up leading off with his happy little meteor thingy, as I decide to throw out my dude with the best beard in the game, Alolan Golem. So this Golem is basically designed to be a lead that rock polishes and then kind of just is fast enough to tear through shit and be able to get as much damage as possible early game. Although, he actually first turn ends up going for the Earthquake. I expected Stealth Rock, but I am able to live that with 40 HP, which is going to allow me to polish my rocks up, make me nice and fast. I bust out my weird little cannon thing out of my head, and my speed is raised sharply, so I am going to be faster than this thing as I go for a Rock Slide, and I miss, which is terrible, because this allows him to go for one more Earthquake, and that's going to take care of my Golem. So, first impression of Alolan Golem on the channel is not very good at all. Rock Slide is always letting me down, like, what the fuck, but that kind of sucks, so I'm already starting off with a little 5-6 deficit here, as I'm now going to switch into Paul because basically this thing cannot touch me, and I can fire back with a Scald and pretty much destroy it. So he's now going to switch into his Decidueye, which is a good play. I go for the Scald here, and unfortunately I don't get the burn, but I mean, you can't really rely on Scald burns, but shit does happen like most of the time. But anyway, Paul doesn't want to catch a Spirit Shackle to the face, so I actually decide to switch into my Tripod here, who actually resists both of this Decidueye's stabs, so I'm actually a decent check to this thing, and I can fire back with a Dark Pulse and one-hit KO it. So he goes for the Spirit Shackle. That's going to do pretty much nothing to me. It does look awesome, though, so I can't escape anymore, but honestly, Tripod's like, I wasn't planning on going anywhere anyway, bitch, as he's now going to switch into my cat, which I'm assuming his cat throws up or something, which is kind of a funny nickname, as I'm going to go for a Dark Pulse, and I'm assuming he didn't know that I was Choice Spec, so he wasn't expecting that much damage, so one more would actually take out the Pyukumuku, but he's going to go ahead and switch right into his own Dragon. Since he knows I am Choice Specs, he's expecting me to not be able to go for a Dragon Pulse, as that actually does a decent amount of damage to the Como-O. Honestly, I wasn't really expecting it to do that much, but honestly, Specs Hydreigon is always going to be a threat. I don't care what metagame we're playing. But I don't want to take a clanging scale, so I actually decide to switch in my Cradilly, and this is pretty much the test of Cradilly here, to see how well I can take that. And I actually eat that shit up. I take less than half from it after the leftovers. I'm sitting at a pretty damn good spot. So Cradilly's pretty stoked about that. And he is going to end up switching out here, as I'm just going to go for a Toxic. I kind of just want to whittle down whatever he wants to switch into, as he actually ends up going into the Decidueye, which is kind of perfect, so I'm able to land a Toxic on that thing. And honestly, as I'm looking at this matchup, I don't really feel too bad about it. I actually decide to stay in because I do have Recover, and I'm pretty sure that I can take a Spirit Shackle relatively nicely. Plus, the amount of turns that he can stay in is pretty limited due to that poison. So, as I was thinking about it, I was pretty sure that I could take 2 Spirit Shackles and then be able to recover back up here. So he goes for the first Spirit Shackle, and I take that really nicely, and it brings me to the point where it's looking like I can take another. So this turn, I decide to go for the Stealth Rock because that's going to help me later on. He's going to be limited on his switches, and at this point, all I really have to do is click Recover, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is why I love Cradilly so much. It's awesome. You can do so much with this thing. Plus, its ability, Storm Drain, is really just clutch as hell. Honestly, I kind of wish I had Rock Slide on this thing because my only attacking move is actually Giga Drain, but he decides to go for a Leaf Blade here. I'm assuming he was hoping for the critical hits, although I'm able to take that, live it with 10 HP, and that allows me to recover back above half. So that's pretty awesome. I'm in the green, and Cradilly's like, ha, I'm the better grass type here, bitch. So Decidueye does not really want to stay in here. The Toxic is starting to build up. Look at that, it's going to bring him to relatively close to half, and at this point, I believe I actually just decided to go for the Giga Drain, expecting him to switch out, but he actually just stays in and goes for another Leaf Blade, which I was not expecting. As I go for the Giga Drain, it's obviously not going to do anything to Decidueye, and unfortunately, my health at this point is not looking like I can take another attack from this thing. Plus, I can't switch out because Spirit Shackle is doing its thing on me, so that kind of sucks. But after my opponent sees this next toxic damage, he realizes he's not going to be able to stay in for one more turn. So he actually decides to save his Decidueye for later to potentially do some Sucker Punch shenanigans later. And he's not going to switch into the Pyukumuku, as I wish I really would have gone for the Giga Drain here, but I'm actually just going to recover to try to play it safe. And it's looking like Cradilly does a number to this guy's team, so I kind of want to keep this thing around. Plus, look at that, I'm like all the way back to full, so that is fantastic. And at this point, I'm actually expecting this Pyukumuku to go for the Toxic. I wasn't really sure what this thing was going to go for, honestly, so I decided to switch into Young Damage, as he is actually going to go for a Pain Split, which I really did not expect, but that was a good play because that's going to bring him up to a decent amount of health, and that's going to bring me to about half. Plus, at this point, Darmanitan really doesn't have anything to do to this thing. My plan was basically just to come in and then be able to finish it off with Earthquake, but it's looking like it's not going to happen, as I have to U-turn here. I'm going to get hurt by some Rocky Helmet, and I'm going to now bring in Dick Pinch, because I know that obviously Pyukumuku doesn't have any type of really offensive power, so he actually ends up going for the taunts. My plan was to come in here and dance with some swords and try to get a nice little pincer sweep going, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen, as now I am able to Mega Evolve, which is cool. And at this point, I can just finish this thing off with a return, and Dick Pinch has returned. Literally, this thing is back. He's finally back. So, the Innards Out ability is going to do a shit ton to me, plus the Rocky Helmet, but it's like, Dick Pinch is like, you know, it's alright, I've been through worse, man. This man's seen some shit. So, Pyukumuku pulls out his weird little white hand, and now he's going to bring out the Salazzle. And here I do a really stupid play. I actually should have clicked Quick Attack, although I was messed up on my speed tiers, thought I was going to be faster for a second, but this thing definitely is faster than me, and he's able to finish me off with a Flamethrower, which kind of blows because Pinsir really would have done a lot to this guy's team later on, but I'm able to lose that thing. I blame Chad because in the live stream I asked him what this thing's speed was, and I really just did not have enough time. I clicked return and I blew it, but I'm now going to bring out Paul here, as he's going to go ahead and Toxic me, which is kind of a bummer. But honestly, Paul is too much of a defensive beast. He doesn't even give a shit about no poison. So I'm able to now just go for a Psyshock, which is going to take care of the Salazzle. So that's a threat out of the way. And Paul's just back killing bitches. He's feeling in his natural habitat. And hell yeah. So I get hurt by a little bit of poison. Really not too big of a deal here, as now he's going to bring back in the Decidueye, who should have died earlier, but he's still kicking it, as he's going to get hurt by a little bit of Stealth Rock, and it's looking like the poison might be able to knock this thing out next turn. I don't really want Slowbro to take an attack, because I'm looking kind of useful for later on in the match, as I really have no reason to not switch into my Tripod here, as he basically just has to go for the Leaf Blade. There's really nothing else he can do, as it does a little bit of damage to me, and the poison actually doesn't end up taking this thing out, so unfortunately I do have to take a Sucker Punch from this thing, but since I resist that, Hydreigon is just actually just going to stay in here and Dragon Pulse you, and that's going to be the end of the Decidueye. Finally, that thing lasted way too damn long, but down goes your Robin Hoot, and things are looking pretty solid. So now he's going to bring in Praise, which is the Miniar yet again. We haven't seen this thing since the lead, and I also don't really know what kind of Miniar this is. I mean, generally you see them and they're always going to be Shell Smash, so I probably should have just stayed in here and gone for the Dragon Pulse, expecting the Shell Smash, but I actually just decided to switch into Paul here. Really not too big of a deal. Either play probably would have worked out, because he does go for the Shell Smash, and even though he is going to boost his attack, it's not going to be enough to really even put a dent into Slowbro. Slowbro honestly is just way too damn defensive, especially when I'm just max defense. So he actually does have the White Herb item, which is going to bring his defenses back to normal, which honestly doesn't really matter because a Scald still will take this thing out. So I get hurt by a little bit of poison, not too big of a deal. I was actually at full health because I do have the Regenerator ability, which raises your HP after you switch out. So I am able to take the Acrobatics very nicely, and a Scald is going to take care of your little baby Meteor. So down goes that thing, and that is pretty awesome. It's great to see Slowbro still putting in work. This thing's always going to be good. I love this shit. I don't play OU a whole lot, but I will probably get into it, especially in the early section of this new kind of metagame with the Pokebank and stuff. It's really fun to mess around with. But now he's going to bring out the Como Jojo, and at this point, I don't really have any reason to switch out here. If he kills Slowbro, that's honestly fine because I get a revenge switch in. So he goes for the Clanging Scales. That is going to take out Slowbro, which is fine. You did a good job, though, buddy. I'm proud of you, Paul. So now this allows me to bring in my Tripod, and I was actually just expecting him to stay in here. This is kind of a showdown between New Age and Old Age dragons, but I'm just going to go for the Dragon Pulse, as he's actually just going to switch into Hot Bone, which is his Alolan Marowak, which we have not seen yet. So he gets hurt by a little bit of Stealth Rock, and I go for the Dragon Pulse. Keep in mind, I am Choice Specs. I actually end up getting a critical hit here, which was interesting. I don't think it mattered, depending on what set this Marowak was running, plus I would have been faster anyway, so it definitely didn't matter. But Now the only thing he is left to do is bring in his Kommo-o, and he has to get slayed by my way cooler dragon with 3 heads. So Tripod is going to finish off the match here, and a Dragon Pulse is going to take out your Kommo-o. So I thought that was a pretty interesting match there. I definitely, I really enjoyed this one. I like using this team. It's pretty damn fun. So thank you guys for watching. Go ahead and hit that like button if you enjoyed, and I will see you later. Peace out.